This video is going to be about building a doghouse. Here is my rescue dog, and what I did is I took dimensions for length and height. I wanted her to have a doghouse where she could lay down in this exact position. Not exact, but in the position where she could be sprawled out. Most doghouses, they want them to be small and compact so they hold in heat, but this doghouse is going to be kept in the house. I rescued her almost 6 months ago, and I just want to build something for her. I'm not really good with wood, so I'm really struggling with using a handsaw to do my cutting and trying to figure out the dimensions and how to do bracing and how to make this safe. She's a very small dog. She's only about 17 pounds, maybe 18, 19 pounds, something like that. So again, unlike the average doghouse where they want the dog to sit down on the belly or to be curled up, I want her to be able to lie down in a position like this if she wants to, which means that the house becomes much wider, and depth-wise, not really that much of a difference. Height-wise, I want her to be able to walk into the house. They want you to leave the door a little bit shorter than, not as tall as the height of the dog, so that they can scrunch down a little bit. So I'm going to show you what I've got right now, and it's going slow. I don't have screws. I've been studying, should I use screws, should I use nails, how long should they be? Most of what I'm finding out is that if you're going to be screwing a 3/4 inch board into something, then you want the nail or the screw to be 2/3 the size. So if you have a 3/4 inch baseboard, which I'll show you in a minute when I get over to the house. If you have a 3/4 inch baseboard and you're going to be nailing it into or screwing it into some 2x3s, which is what I have, then since the board is 3/4 of an inch, you want it to be 2/3 of that, which would mean 3/4 and 3/4. So I'm going to head on over to my mom's house now where I'm working on the doghouse, and I'll show you my basic plans as I slowly progress week by week. This is the base of the doghouse. It's going to be 31.5 inches end to end and 18 inches across. And all I've done is, since it's a small dog, rather than use 2x4s, I'm using 2x3s, cutting them with a handsaw. And this is strictly just going to be the base, as I said right now. And I don't really know what nails or screws I'm going to use, so I'm using wood glue. That's why I have these clamps over here. I'm going to wood glue everything, and then I'll figure out what size screws to use after I get everything filed down and sanded down. And this is a 3/4 inch base for the top right now. And I think I'm going to be building 1/2 inch sidewalls and top instead of 3/4. 3/4 is just overkill for the size doghouse that I'm going to be building. Now, there are different ways you can do this. You can mount a board this way and put posts in the corner going vertically up and overhang a little bit, overhang on here so that you can screw your board right into the edge of the plywood, or you can carry it all the way down if you want to. Just depends on if you're worried about splitting the wood or not. I'm going to be doing pilot holes with the wood, so I'm going to be showing you what that looks like as I get to the next step. And so after you get your base on, you're going to be putting a side wall up on each side, and then obviously a back wall, and then a front, which I'm going to be cutting out the opening, and then I'm going to decide if I'm just going to put a top right over the top to close it up like a regular box, or if I'm going to A-frame it or gable roof the top. So this video is going to be some basic guidelines on how to build a doghouse for somebody who has no wood experience, which is me. Now, what I did, I'm using 2x3s over here. 2x3s means that the wood is 1.5 inches by 2.5 inches. So it's 2.5 inches high. On the top over here, I'm using 3/4 inch plywood. Now, what I'm doing, since I don't know what I'm doing, is I'm gluing everything together, measuring everything as best as I can with a square and a level, gluing everything together. Then after that, I am putting the screws in there. This is a 3/4 inch piece of wood. I'm using a 1 1/4 inch screw, which will drop it down to about here. It's for a small dog. It's not a big dog house, so I don't really need screws to go all the way down. On the side piece over here, we've got 2.5 inch screws that are going into the edge of the board. I'm using SPAX screws, S-P-A-X. It made it much easier. You do want to use a pilot hole if you can, so that you don't split the wood as it's going in. What I was using was an impact drive, so that I went in very slowly, and I didn't pilot hole most of these holes, and the wood did not split. So my advice, it depends on your dog. This is mostly for a small dog. I bought a 4x8 foot piece of plywood. This is the plywood. I bought a 4x8 foot piece, and I had the store cut it into 4 pieces. So that was 2x4, 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 2x4. Now what I'm doing here is, the reason I did 2x4, because it makes it much easier for me. So the side piece over here, 18 inches high, because I didn't need it 2 feet high. But it's 2 feet wide, so I didn't have to do any cutting. 2 feet going across here. The other piece is going to be 2 feet wide, so I don't have to do any cutting over there. I measured the width, so that with the 3/4 inch plywood on this side and this side, the width is going to be 24 inches. So all I need to do is cut the height, the 18 inch height. So that makes all my cutting very easy. The back is also going to be, obviously, 24 inches across. So by doing it this way, I limit most of my cuts. All I have to cut, I don't have to cut the width, the 24 inches, I just have to cut the height. So that's my advice if you're going to be building a small doghouse. That way you've only got to cut, you got to cut this down to size, you have to cut this to size, but you don't have to cut the width. Don't have to cut down the 24 here, the 24 here, the 24 in the back. So there's not really much more to this thing. This has taken me days to do, because I'm going one piece at a time, getting everything lined up, gluing it, coming back the next day, putting the screws in. So very simple, basic woodwork. You can see the 2x3, the 2x3, the panel that's over here. Now I'm going to go drill my holes, and by doing it this way, I know a lot of the videos, they have this up higher, but by having it lower, it makes it easier for me, because I can drill, instead of drilling the screw into the plywood, where you've got to be absolutely perfect, and you're worried about it splitting, and you're worried that the dog might feel one of the screws if it comes up this way. I'm able to screw it into the 2x3. I'm going to screw everything into the 2x3, and the board isn't that tall, so there's not going to be a lot of bending or cause for concern about it falling over. So after you get your 2 sides done, then you're going to be making your back piece, which obviously is going to be the same thing as this. It's going to be 24 inches, and it's going to be 18 inches high. And then for the front piece, it's going to be the exact same thing, but a little different, depending on what you're going to do. If you're going to have a square top, then all you need to do is put it up to here, and you're done. If you're going to have a gable top, which is like an angled thing, then you're going to have to do your rectangle, and then you're going to have to put your gable piece up there, and then cut it out. And let me give you a few more ideas on what I'm going to do to finish this thing off. as far as I'm concerned, I really want to have access to the doghouse without reaching into the opening, and so that makes me not want to put a top on there. I could put a top on with hinges, but I'm not really sure that I want to deal with all of that. I think it might just be easier to build the doghouse and put a towel over it or some type of very thin dark plastic cover so that there's no weight on the top of the house. I don't have to worry about not being able to get into it. So let me show you what I'm going to finish this thing off with. Now this board that I just, this piece of lumber that I just put over here, this is a 2x2, which means that it's 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. And so when you're putting this thing together, you want to make sure that there's support, strength, and no chance that any screws are going to get caught, or no nails are going to get caught inside where the dog can get hurt. So you need to have some support over here besides just the screws. And you really don't, because this is going to be so firm and secure. But the best way to do it is you get a 2x2. You put it in the corner over here. And that way you're able to put your screws on this side. And for the front, you're able to put your screws into this side. And you're also able to put your screws on the bottom 2x3. And there is no way that this house is going to fall apart. So, I'm not sure if I'm going to just post this or finish off the house and show you what I come up with. Same thing for the gable. If you are going to be doing a gable, you're going to want these 4 pieces. You're going to want one in each corner, obviously. So it makes it easy to screw the top to the bottom. Now, if you want, other videos say put this thing on first and then mount the side to the base. It's up to you which way you want to do it. For me, this way I know everything's going to be perfectly even when I assemble it. Since my other advice to you is when you're doing the sides, see the gap over there I've got? See the gap down? That's because I don't have a table saw, so my cuts are not accurate. And what you want to make sure you do when you're putting the sides up is get a level and make sure that the sides are totally straight. Because if you put the side in on an angle, then everything else that you assemble is going to be screwed up. So it's got to be straight. When you're doing the gable, if you are going to be doing a gable, you're going to obviously have this as your front piece. And then for the gable part of it, if you're going to do the gable, you're going to want this thing on the inside front and the inside back mounted on the front and the back. That way you'll be able to screw in your roof pieces into this the exact same way that you're going to be screwing your side pieces in and front pieces into this post. Okay, so that's going to be it. Hopefully this helped you out a little bit. If you want to do a thumbs up, a subscribe, or a like. If you want to link this to any website, that would be awesome. If you want to donate to my PayPal, let me know. And if there's something you want me to review, if I can get a hold of it, I will do a review. So good luck building your doghouse. Go slow, be safe, make sure that everything's secure and that nothing could damage or injure the dog, and just take your time. On the sides over here, these are 3/4 inch. If you have a small dog, you might want to use 1/2 inch, but buying the 4x8 3/4 inch completely sanded was much cheaper than buying the 1/2 inch. If you're going to be building for a bigger dog, it's pretty much the same concept with the base and the pieces on the bottom and the screws and the front, back, sides, and the posts in the corner, and also the side pieces mounted on the front and the back if you're going to be putting a gable roof on it. This is the back. This is the back of the house. The front, the plywood was splitting. I put glue on it, and I'm waiting for it to mend. This is what happens when you don't have a good table saw. You can see all of my cuts are way off, but at least I've got them straight up because I'm using the level. So this is the back. This is the gap on the right side. There's not too bad of a gap on the back. Huge gap on the left side. And what I decided to do was gable it, so this went up 18 inches like the walls, and then I just gabled it up to the height of the 24-inch piece. So I still don't know what I'm going to do. I really don't. I don't know if I'm going to leave the thing open on the top, or like I was saying before, if you're going to put a roof on there, you want to put one of those 2x2s over here, and then you mount the roof right on to the top over here and screw it into the 2x2. So I'm not really sure which way I'm going to go with this, but after this dries, I'll screw everything in, and then the next step will be cutting out the front hole on the front panel for the dog to enter. I'm going to be showing you what I've got so far for the doghouse. I've got everything done but the top and the front. So I just want you to see the bottom of it now. Got a little sun over here, so the game is going to be kind of messed up with the video, but you can see the bottom with the 2x3s, and that is the left side. And see how I'm putting the screws into the 2x3 on the bottom, and then to firm it up, I'm also inserting them into the 3/4 inch plywood base. So that is the side. This is the back. Let's see if I can get this to show properly. This is the back, and notice how I've got the the dog's coming over here to investigate. This is who the house is for. There she is. And she's waiting for this to be finished. Look at her. Okay, so we've got the apex that I put on for the gable. This doghouse is way too big, obviously. You can see the black line over there. That's 18 inches tall. Well, she is not 18 inches tall. She's a foot tall. So what I should have done was made this even smaller with the gable point going up maybe to 18 inches. But, you know, like the women say, it's only another 6 inches, so it doesn't really matter. Don't do that. So that's the back of it. Today I'm going to be mounting more screws to make this thing more secure, and then I'm going to be showing you how I use the screw bit. And for the screws that I'm using here, I'm going to show you how to use the screw bit, and these are really great screws. I've been very happy with it. And some pilot holes, but no splintering or splitting of the wood. So I'm going to do a review on those screws in a minute, and I also bought a different Japanese handsaw, so I can do the cutout of the front of the door, the doghouse, the front part. I'll be doing a review on that saw, also comparing it to the saw that I've used for everything that came from Harbor Freight. So let me see, what else do I want to show you here? So that's the side. This thing is on its side right now. This is the front that I don't have the front piece cut out yet, and you can see where I messed up over here. I really screwed up. It's not even. This is overhanging, and this is not perfectly even. What I would do next time, I might build another doghouse just as another fun project. What I would do next time, and my suggestion to whoever's watching this, is make sure that you've got an absolutely perfectly square base. Make sure it's absolutely perfect. Once it's perfect, then all you've got to do is mount these things, glue them down. My mistake was that I glued them down, but I made sure that they attached together properly over here, and what I should have done was just made sure that they stayed along the edge of the base. That way I wouldn't have this problem with overhang and the box not coming together properly. So, alright, let me go get the drill and all the parts ready, and I'll show you how I do how I drill a hole with the pilot hole and using the screw bit and the countersink. Hey you, it's almost finished. Just be patient. Aw, so cute. So this is going to be a review of the Spax multi-purpose construction screws. Got the 2.5 and the 1 1/4 number 8 screw. And if you buy it in the package, it comes with the, here we see no pre-drilling, and that's true, you don't need to pre-drill. It's pretty amazing. I am pre-drilling on certain things, but you don't need to on everything. Bit included if you buy the right size package. There was no bit included with this. Here's the bit. Let me zoom in a little bit. All that bit is, it is a Phillips bit with a square end to it, and just like the picture over here shows, it's a Phillips. We have a better picture. No, we don't. So let me get out the screw and show you what it looks like. So the idea behind it is it makes it so it doesn't really slip. So you can see the Phillips part very easily. You can see the Phillips part when you look at it from the front, but when you look at it from the side, notice the square. So it's a Phillips with a square. So if you don't have the bit, you can use the Phillips. And if you do have the bit, you can use the bit for the Phillips and the square, and it makes it non-slipping, and it's awesome. Now, for my situation, the only reason that I am doing a pilot hole is twofold. First, I'm going into the edge of 3/4 inch plywood, and it makes a lot of sense to do that. The other reason is I'm countersinking the screws, and I could put in a countersink without drilling a hole, but for me it's a little bit easier. So let me show you how awesome these screws are. Let me put the drill bit in. Drill bit's in the drill. Go straight down into the edge of the 3/4 inch plywood. Now, this is my first wood project building this doghouse, so I am by no means an expert or a construction person, and that's why I'm doing the video. This is for people like me who have no clue what they're doing, who want an easy way to put something together. These screws make it much easier than standard screws, and the bit makes it much easier. So now that I've got my pilot hole, I'm going to go in there with a little quick countersink. I did a video on this impact this impact drive for Makita, and I got it on a really good price, good deal. I would suggest if you don't have one and you plan on doing projects to buy one of these things, and you're going to see what in a minute. Sure, you could use a drill and a hand screwdriver, but like all construction people, they all use these things. It makes it easier to put into wood, and usually you don't have to do a pilot hole, so between this and the screws, you wouldn't have to do a pilot hole. And you also get the impact part, which takes the screw and drops it down lower, below the countersink, and kind of torques it down. So what you do, I wish this was magnetic, it isn't, or maybe it is, okay. So you just take the screw and you pop it in there, and I'm going to try to zoom in on this thing as best I can. We've all heard that sound at a construction site. That's the impact part of the wrench. The drive, why do I keep saying wrench? And it's flush with the wood right now, and it's secured the side of the doghouse. So, my review of these things, these are awesome. The specs, construction screws. I'm not sure if they cost more money or not, but they are, to me, worth the extra expense if they are, and if they're not, then they're definitely worth it because they're saving me a lot of time. None of the heads have stripped out on this. They go in easily, they come out easily, and my review of these things, yeah, I would definitely buy these again. Specs, construction screws. This is the bottom, just so you can see what I was talking about before. You can see there's gaps over here, the gaps over there, gaps in the corner, gaps on the bottom of the wood. So some of it came because these boards weren't perfectly level. Big gap over here. There shouldn't be a big gap over there. So big gap on one side and no gap on this side. No gap on the back, but this piece is overhanging. So like I said, if I was going to do this again, I would make sure that this base was perfectly square and then go in there and line up these bottom 2x3s to perfectly match the edge of the base, so I wouldn't have this overhang problem. Most important thing when you're building this, make sure you have a square and make sure that you have a level, and take the time to get everything square and level. So if things weren't square and level, then this would not be possible right now. Even though things are off, it would not be possible without making everything level and square. So the next step of this build project now is I'm going to spend the next few hours sanding everything down perfectly to make sure there are no rough edges. And then after that, I'll be getting my new saw, hand saw, in the mail in the next 2 days. And I will show you how I'm going to be cutting out the front piece and finishing off the house. My latest update for the doghouse, what I'm going to need to do is I need to put a post in each corner, one over there, one's going to be over here, and one's going to be over here, and they're going to be, it's a 2x2 post, 2x2 piece of lumber, which really means it's 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches, and that's just going to give it support. I'm going to put it in the corner, it's going to sit on the bottom, rest on the bottom, and then it will allow me to screw this post in to this wall and this wall. So it's going to give some stability to each corner, and then it will rest on the bottom. So not that it really needs it. Some of these things might need it. If you weren't screwing the side panel into the base like I did, some of these things just have you screw it into the plywood over here and not on the base. And so you would want to have these corner supports for, it would be resting on here. But I'm going to be mounting 4 posts, and then the 3 final steps are, here's the front thing. I'm going to be marking that a little better, so I'm going to cut out the opening for the dog to get in. And then I'm going to decide on the roof, the 2 roof pieces, and if I do that, I'll probably put a 2x2 post over here and over here so that I can screw in the roof pieces. But I, again, don't know which way I'm going to go with that. So I'm going to hold off on the video for now, and if you want to check my channel, I'm going to be doing a review of the saw that I have used to build this. It's a Japanese saw that I picked up. It's a pole saw that I picked up at Harbor Freight. And then I bought another pole saw, a real Japanese pole saw that cost about 3 times as much. So I'm going to do a review to see which one is better, and then I'm going to be using them to cut the 2x2 posts, and also probably to be cutting out the opening there. There are the 4 support pieces completely sanded on all edges because they are going to be inside the doghouse. You don't want the dog to get slivers, so everything in here has got to be perfectly sanded with very fine sandpaper. This is the opening for the front of the doghouse. And yes, this is crazy, but I am actually starting the cut with a drill, and I am using an X-Acto knife blade rather than using power tools. I do have a jigsaw, but I'm not going to use the jigsaw, and I'm not going to use anything but the Japanese handsaw once I can get it into the opening without damaging it. So this is an X-Acto knife blade that most people don't have, a saw blade, and we're almost there. I've got the markings on the piece of wood, So once I get this V cut out, I'll be able to get my saw in here, and I'll be able to open up a wider section, and then I will work all the way around, strictly with hand tools, to do the opening. Like inexperienced woodworking people might do that do not have tools or power tools. We got the front of the house mounted with the screws. I've got the cutout, which I did with a jigsaw and a handsaw and lots of filing and sanding. And now I'm going to be attaching the corner posts. A lot of videos they bring it up to the top, but I didn't bring mine up to the top. I'm going to be attaching the corner post. I'll be putting screws in from the front and the back, which will give this much more stability than it would ever need for its height and its size. Alright, I put some treats in the doghouse. I'm waiting to see if she's going to go in for her first time. She doesn't really know what to do. Obviously, she's scared. Come here. Come here. Yeah, she's kind of nervous. Has no idea what to do. Look at this. Come here. That's your doghouse. That's your little doghouse. Yeah, she's kind of scared. And there it is. Doesn't have a roof yet, but I'm happy. Taking a video with the camera and with the cell phone. I think it's enough room for her. I don't have a roof on it yet. I don't have it painted. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the roofing, but I am very happy. And this only took me about a month to do. This thing is built so strong and so tough with so many screws and supports. You definitely should build a doghouse for your dog. The feeling you will have after you get it done is incredible.